The 1st of September 1987, Civil Affairs Bureau of Northern Shaanxi Military District. Hello, I'd like to apply for a compulsory divorce. Lyra Shun, wearing a white polka-dot maxi dress, handed over her documents and spoke to the staff in a calm tone. The staff member was momentarily surprised. Comrade, there's a 30-day cooling-off period for compulsory divorce. If you still wish to proceed after 1 month, the marriage will be dissolved. Lyra Shun nodded in understanding, stepping out of the hall. She now held an application form in her hand. Passing by a photo studio, the transparent mirror reflected a youthful and innocent face. Only at this moment did Lyra Shun truly and tangibly feel that she had been reborn 30 years into the past, that vibrant and radiant version of herself, not yet suffocated by married life. In her previous life, she married Kai Han and spent a lifetime with him. Her wholehearted devotion was met only with his indifference and neglect. Even treating her as if she were invisible for 30 years, their relationship was as distant as strangers, not even as close as neighbors. To live again must be a chance given by heaven. Seeing her sorrow and suffering, this time, she didn't want to live a tomb-like life as in her previous existence. This time, she didn't want to entangle with Kai Han anymore. This time, she wanted freedom and happiness. Returning home, Lyra Shun put down the divorce application and immediately began organizing her belongings. Although there's still a month to wait, it's best to start packing early. Pack what needs to be packed and throw away what should be discarded. When the time comes, we'll leave without hesitation. The sky shifted from deep blue to orange-yellow. Lyra Shun had just thrown away some useless items when the sound of a car engine turning off came from the doorway. Turning around, she saw Kai Han in military uniform and Rena Ruan in a water blue dress talking to each other. Rena Ruan must have said something, because Kai Han's face, always so cold toward her, was now softening into a doting smile as he reached out to tousle the woman's silky hair. Lyra Shun watched quietly, her eyes betraying little emotion. Rena Ruan gave Kai Han a shy smile before turning and meeting Lyra Shun's gaze. He immediately nodded at her and jogged back to his own home. Kai Han's gaze finally shifted from Rena Ruan to Lyra Shun, the smile on his face vanishing in an instant. His eyes fell on the red dress in the trash bin. That dress, wasn't it your favorite? I don't like it anymore, so I threw it away. Lyra Shun didn't expect Kai Han to remember, so she casually told a lie. Kai Han didn't ask further. You go to sleep first tonight. I still have documents to review in the study. With that, the man went straight into the house to the study. Without even a single extra glance, nor did he notice the divorce application that Lyra Shun had casually tossed on the coffee table. Lyra Shun thought it was just as well that he hadn't noticed, sparing her the trouble of having to fabricate more lies to keep him in the dark. She tucked the divorce application away in the bottom drawer of her desk. Passing by the study, she saw Kai Han under the lamplight, gazing tenderly at the photo tucked in his wallet, and her thoughts became a tangled mess. She and Kai Han had a whirlwind marriage. Back then, Kai Han had come to visit her grandfather, who had retired to the countryside, as a representative of the military. Looking at Kai Han in his green military uniform with his handsome features, Lyra Shun's hero dream rippled at that moment, and her entire heart fell uncontrollably. Later, she begged her grandfather to connect with the old military unit and inquired everywhere about Kai Han's personal situation. With the organization's matchmaking and her relentless pursuit in a woman-chasing man offensive, she won over Kai Han. At first, Kai Han was cold toward her, and she thought it was because they had married too quickly and weren't familiar with each other yet. So after marriage, she cared for his well-being, managed his daily life, and wholeheartedly maintained their little home. Yet Kai Han remained perpetually indifferent toward her, even leading her to suspect at one point whether he had secretly visited some temple to become a monk and renounce all carnal desires. Until Rena Ruan returned, only then did Lyra Shun realize that Kai Han was not devoid of a man's desires. He was simply preserving his purity for Rena Ruan. Back then, it was because Rena Ruan married someone from another place, and Kai Han confessed his feelings too late. Heartbroken, he agreed to marry her instead. She had personally witnessed how Kai Han would accommodate Rena Ruan in every matter and dote on her in every way. When Rena Ruan was sad, Kai Han would comfort her gently. When Rena Ruan was angry, Kai Han would smile apologetically to cheer her up. When Rena Ruan had a fever, Kai Han would stay up all night to take care of her. She waited her whole life, only to end up with nothing but an illusion, given a second chance at life. Lyra Shun looked at the man who was still secretly gazing at Rina Ruan's photo, a relieved smile curling at the corners of her lips. Kai-han, you can spend the rest of your life clinging to that photo. This life, it is I, Lyra Shun, who doesn't want you anymore. Chapter 2, Farewell to the Old Days. Lyra Shun turned off the light, rolled over, and fell into a deep sleep. In her past life, no matter how late Kai-han came back, she always left a light on for him, as long as Kai-han is at home. No matter how late she is busy, she will wait for him to sleep together. Now she won't wait anymore, nor will she pray for this doomed love. A good night's sleep. Early in the morning, Lyra Shun woke up, and just as she brought breakfast out from the kitchen, Kai-han happened to get up. After the two silently finished breakfast, Kai-han suddenly spoke up. I have something to do today, so don't wait for me to come back for dinner tonight. Millimeter, got it. In the past, Lyra Shun would have asked what the matter was and reminded him to remember to eat, but now, she had no questions, just nodded faintly. Kai-han glanced at her with a slight frown but said nothing. Picking up the car keys and leaving the family compound, Lyra Shun also stood up and quickly cleared the dining table. As she entered the living room, her gaze suddenly fell upon a pair of ceramic figurines. One male, one female. On the TV stand, a wave of dizziness washed over her. This was bought right after marrying Kai-han. I still remember how she brought it home and proudly showed it to Kai-han, only to receive his look of disdain. These are just childish toys. Why did you even buy them? Yet this same disdainful Kai-han, after Rina Ruan returned, would take the initiative to buy an identical pair as a gift for her. Lyra Shun found a canvas bag, sneered as she tossed the doll inside, then continued throwing in some unimportant items. She cleared out everything inside and out. Weighing the nearly weightless bag, she suddenly realized that after 3 years of marriage to Kai-han, the things they truly shared were pitifully few. Lyra Shun almost felt sorry for her past, persistent self. In the afternoon, after dealing with another batch of things not worth lingering over, Lyra Shun went to the military uniform factory to complete her resignation procedures. The director's words were full of regret. Comrade Lyra, have you really thought it through about resigning? I was actually planning to promote you to workshop supervisor. Lyra Shun smiled and declined the leader's kindness. Thank you, but I want to go to the capital to see the world outside. I can only let down your expectations. Unable to persuade her, the director could only respect her decision. By the time she came out of the military uniform factory, it was already dark outside. She stepped into a roadside phone booth and dialed a number she had memorized by heart. Hello, who is this? Hearing a voice she hadn't heard in decades, Lyra Shun's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. She held back her emotions. Grandpa, it's Lyra. How are you feeling? It's your birthday next week, and I'll come back to see you. Upon hearing this, the old man's voice was filled with laughter. After talking for a long time, Lyra Shun finally hung up the phone. Having composed herself, she stepped out of the phone booth and suddenly noticed a familiar car parked by the roadside. Lyra Shun had just turned her gaze toward the nearby cinema when she saw Kai-han and Rina Ruan walking out of the entrance. So the something important Kai-han mentioned was accompanying Rina Ruan to watch a movie. Kai-han opened the passenger door for Rina Ruan, and with an unintentional glance, he spotted Lyra Shun standing not far away. He walked over and asked her calmly, "Are you just getting off work now?" Lyra Shun was slightly taken aback but went along with his words. "Yeah. There are some things to take care of." Kai-han didn't suspect anything and nodded. "Get in. Let's go back together." Rina Ruan, who had already taken the passenger seat, immediately said, "Then I'll get out." "Lyra, you can sit here." As she spoke, she was about to step out. But by then Lyra Shun had already opened the rear door. "It's fine. Stay there. No need to trouble yourself." In the past, whenever Lyra Shun rode in his car, she always had to sit in the front passenger seat. Kai-han glanced at Lyra Shun, hesitating to speak. Lyra Shun smiled and reminded him, "Let's go, it's getting late." With that, she closed the car door and fell silent. In her past life, she had placed great importance on these small details, believing that the passenger seat was a recognition of her identity as Kai-han's wife. She even regarded this seat as the source of security in their marriage. But now, she had given up on Kai-han himself, let alone his passenger seat. Chapter 3. A night of despair. After a long day of running around, Lyra Shun leaned back in her seat to rest. Rena Wan turned to look at her. Lyra, the cultural troupe has a performance tomorrow, and I'm the lead dancer. I'd like to invite you and Kai to come watch. Just as Lyra Shun opened her eyes, Kai Han cut in. She has work and probably won't have time, but I'll go to cheer you on. Then it's settled. No matter how busy you are tomorrow, you can't stand me up, or I'll hold a grudge, alright? I promise you. Kai Han's voice was full of indulgence and tolerance, completely disregarding the fact that his wife was still listening in the back seat. The moment Lyra Shun lowered her eyelids, she concealed the absurdity in her eyes. Upon returning to the family compound, Lyra Shun unbuckled her seatbelt and got out of the car. A movie ticket fell out of Kai Han's pocket as he opened the door. Without even asking, Lyra Shun walked into the room. A flicker of unease crossed Kai Han's brow. Rena had plans to watch a movie with her friend, but her friend cancelled last minute. She happened to run into me, so we ended up going together. Lyra Shun was slightly surprised that Kai Han would explain himself to her. She turned to look at him. You two grew up together. Watching a movie is no big deal. I don't mind. Kai Han looked at Lyra Shun and suddenly said, I've noticed you seem different lately. Lyra Shun smiled. Didn't you say you only see Rena Wan as a sister and told me not to overthink it? Kai Han choked on his words. Lyra Shun, however, ignored him and went straight to take a shower with her pajamas. In her past life, Lyra Shun had questioned the relationship between Kai Han and Rena Wan more than once, but Kai Han's response was always, she's just a little sister from the neighborhood, don't overthink it. Now, she returned those exact words to him, after finishing her shower. She glanced at Kai Han, still busy in the study. Hesitating for a moment, Lyra Shun finally knocked on the door to remind him, it's almost 10, aren't you going to rest? As a soldier, Kai Han has a strong sense of time and never stays up past 10, but tonight was an exception. Without looking up, he replied, you go ahead and sleep. I need to finish reviewing these documents tonight. I don't want to miss Rena's performance tomorrow. After speaking, she seemed to feel it was somewhat inappropriate and quickly added, after all, this is Rena's first time on stage. In the military district, she's only close to me, so I should go and support her. Lyra Shun looked at him calmly and replied indifferently, since you promised. Of course you can't go back on your word. In their past life, Kai Han had stood her up countless times, her birthday, their wedding anniversary, Valentine's Day. Yet now he places such importance on keeping his promise to Rena Wan. Indeed, one only prioritizes what they truly care about. Kai Han loves Rena Wan, which is why he values every word she says. Kai Han does not love Lyra Shun, which is why he neglects every special occasion with her. A fact already known in the past life. Why must one seek suffering again now? Lyra Shun said no more and turned back to the bedroom. Outside, a light rain began to fall, and with the sound of the rain, Lyra Shun soon fell asleep. After an unknown amount of time, a boom echoed as lightning flashed across the sky. Lyra Shun was so startled that she bolted upright in bed, clutching the fabric at her chest with both hands as she gasped for breath. At the age of 10, her father and mother had died in a car accident on a stormy day just like this. Since then, she had been terrified of thunder, often jolted awake from her sleep by it. The thunder rumbled on, one clap after another. Only after half an hour, when the thunder had finally subsided, did her trembling emotions gradually calm down. She turned on the light, intending to pour herself a glass of water. Passing through the living room, she noticed the front door was wide open. Lyra Shun walked forward and, through the slightly ajar door next to her, saw Kai Han gently comforting Rena Wan, who was frightened by the thunder. Chapter 4. Watching coldly from the sidelines, the tenderness and affection on Kai Han's face were unmistakably evident. Lyra Shun took only one glance before turning back to the bedroom, her mood surprisingly calm and undisturbed. The next day, the sky had cleared. Lyra Shun looked down at her sweat-drenched pajamas and prepared to take another shower. Just as she got out of bed, she saw Kai Han walk in, utterly exhausted. Noticing the woman's pale complexion, he was slightly taken aback. It suddenly occurred to him that Lyra Shun was also afraid of thunder, and a twinge of guilt crept into his heart. Last night, Rena had a nightmare, and then the thunder startled her. She called me crying. Lyra Shun shook her head, interrupting him. It's fine. I'm gradually overcoming my psychological shadow and not as afraid anymore. since you've decided to leave him, you need to gradually break free from your dependence on him. You go ahead and have breakfast at the military base. I'm going to take a shower first." By the time Lyra Shin came out of the shower, Kaihan had already left. She thought about going to the street to pick out a birthday gift for her grandfather. "Grandpa is getting older and his health isn't very good. So I bought him a few bottles of malted milk nutritional supplements and some warm thermal underwear for the colder weather." After a whole day of shopping, Lyra Shin finally finished buying everything and headed home. Just as she set these things down, she heard the sound of a key turning in the lock at the door. Kaihan was holding a bag and raised it when he saw Lyra Shin. "I bought you some freshly baked durian pastries. Eat them while they're still warm." He placed the bag on the dining table as he spoke. Lyra Shin stood still, calmly gazing at the box of durian pastries. This was Rina Wan's favorite treat. Kaihan must have felt a twinge of guilt over last night's incident and brought it on a whim. However, he didn't know she never ate durian. Noticing her dazed stillness, Kaihan's voice carried a hint of confusion. "What's wrong?" Lyra Shin looked at Kaihan, her voice calm and steady. "I'm allergic to durian. I can't eat this." Kaihan froze in surprise. He opened his mouth to say something, but not a single word came out. After a long pause, he finally stammered, "Sorry, I..." Lyra Shin maintained a faint smile on her face. "It's fine. I know you never remember these little things." Yet, for some reason, Kaihan found the smile on her face somewhat piercing. The corner of my eye suddenly caught sight of nutritional supplements for the elderly placed on the nearby table, reminding me that next week is Elder Shin's birthday. So he spoke up. "Next week, I'll accompany you back to the old house to celebrate Grandpa's birthday." Lyra Shin glanced at him and nodded. Millimeter. Okay. In their past life, Kaihan rarely accompanied her to visit her grandfather, often delayed by matters, most of which were related to Rina Wan. Now, she has given up hope. Of course, if he wanted to go, she wouldn't stop him. Back in the bedroom, Kaihan watched Lyra Shin preparing the bed to sleep, feeling an inexplicable discomfort in his heart, as if something was gradually slipping away from him. Instinctively, he embraced her and lowered his head to kiss her lips. Lyra Shin was slightly taken aback. She raised her hand to push him away and casually fabricated a lie. "I'm on my period right now, so it's not convenient." In her past life, Kaihan had never kissed her. Even when they shared a bed, it felt like a routine duty. Moreover, as long as she refused, he would never touch her again. But this time, as Lyra Shin met Kaihan's gaze, she actually saw a gradually rising desire in his clear eyes. Chapter 5. On the eve of the breakup. Lyra Shin was somewhat puzzled. When she looked again, Kaihan had already let go of her and was heading to the bathroom. She dismissed it as a figment of her imagination, shook her head, and went to bed. A week later, it was her grandfather's birthday. It takes a 3-hour drive to get to the old house. So Lyra Shin got up early in the morning to pack, bringing all the nutritional supplements prepared for her grandfather. At 9 in the morning, the two arrived at the bus station. Just as they were about to board, a young man in a green military uniform ran up breathlessly and stopped Kaihan. "Political Commissar Han, please wait. The commander said there's something urgent and asked you to return to the military district immediately." Kaihan's expression changed slightly, and he immediately nodded. "All right, I'll head back right away." After taking just one step, he remembered Lyra Shin behind him. Lyra Shin's expression remained largely unchanged as she spoke calmly. "Military matters take priority. I can manage on my own." With that, without waiting for Kaihan's response, she boarded the bus carrying all her bags. She had already lost count of how many times Kaihan had stood her up. Having accumulated enough disappointment, she no longer cared at this point. As noon approached, the bus arrived at Fengnian village. The moment Lyra Shin stepped into the courtyard, she saw a silver-haired but spirited elderly man eagerly waiting at the doorstep. "Grandpa." She rushed over, placed the items in her hands on the ground, and then tightly embraced the elderly man. The old man smiled, patted her back, and led her into the house by the hand, just like when she was a child, offering her snacks he had prepared in advance. Lyra Shin took out the things she had bought one by one to show her grandpa, explaining how to consume the malted milk nutritional supplement and reminding him to wear the thick clothes when the weather turned cold. The two chatted about everyday life, and Lyra Shin felt the warmth of home for the first time in a long while. After the meal, Lyra Shin helped the elderly man take a walk in the yard to aid digestion. Grandpa, next month I want to go to the capital. Would you come with me to Tiananmen Square to watch the flag-raising ceremony? Hearing this, the old man was taken aback and shook his head. Child, I'm too old for that now, I can't walk that far anymore, observing her granddaughter, who hadn't mentioned Kai Han since returning yet wore a face full of smiles. The old man seemed lost in thought. Lyra, your grandfather has lived most of his life without regrets. The only thing I wish for is your happiness. Go wherever you want to go, and don't worry about me, millimeter. Lyra Shin nodded emphatically, and as she rested her head on her grandfather's lap, a sense of liberation settled in her heart. She wouldn't give up on leaving. The only thing holding her back was her grandfather. With her grandfather's support, she no longer had any worries. After helping her grandfather walk a few laps and knowing he had the habit of taking an afternoon nap, Lyra Shin assisted him back to his room for a rest. After closing the door, Lyra Shin still wanted to go somewhere. Under the banyan tree in the backyard, she crouched and dug in the soil for a long time before unearthing a glass bottle covered in dirt. The bottle was filled with stars folded from paper strips. This was something she had insisted on burying together with Kai Han after their marriage. Inside were written all her admiration for him and her longing for their little home. Back then, she was utterly confident that she could make Kai Han fall in love with her. But reality gave her a cruel slap in the face. Now that she's leaving, this thing is no longer needed. Lyra Shin opened the bottle and poured out all the notes inside, unfolding them one by one. I've found my hero. His name is Kai Han. One day, he will surely come to marry me riding on a rainbow-colored cloud. Kai Han agreed to marry me. I'm going to marry him. I was so happy I couldn't sleep all night. Kai Han is a bit distant with me, but it's okay. I believe I will definitely make him fall in love with me. Lyra Shin looked at the scattered notes on the floor, her youthful dreams now as calm as still water. With a hiss, she pressed the red button of the lighter, igniting those notes one by one. Suddenly, Kai Han's voice sounded from behind. Isn't this what you gave me before? Why are you burning it now? Chapter 6, Escaping the Old Life. Lyra Shin looked at the suddenly appearing Kai Han and replied nonchalantly, nothing much. I just saw the words on the note were smudged, so I burned it since it's useless now. Kai Han nodded in agreement. When he was dragged here to bury the bottle, he had thought it childish. Lyra Shin smiled silently and continued burning the remaining notes right in front of him. The leftover ashes were scattered by the wind, leaving the ground instantly clean, with nothing left behind, just like her dead love for Kai Han. When the two returned, Old Man Shin was still asleep, in the room. Kai Han set down the luggage and said, there's still work to do at the military district. I can't stay at the old house for too long and need to head back early tomorrow morning. Lyra Shin nodded without much concern. Millimeter, I want to stay a few more days to spend time with Grandpa. Kai Han glanced at her, slightly puzzled. Don't you need to go back to work? Besides, National Day is coming soon. We'll both have time off then, so we can come back again. A fleeting glimmer flashed through Lyra Shin's eyes. I've taken leave, I have time. Kai Han said no more upon hearing this. In the evening, Kai Han had dinner with the elderly man and played a game of chess before taking the early bus back the next day. Lyra Shin stayed with her grandfather for 3 more days before beginning her journey home. After this parting, she didn't know when she would be able to return to see her grandfather again. As soon as Lyra Shin entered the family compound, she saw the courtyard adorned with red double happiness characters and banners everywhere, filled with a festive atmosphere. Only then did she recall from her past life's memories. It seemed a regiment commander in the military district was getting married. A military wife walked over and familiarly linked arms with her. Lyra, you're back. Come on, let's join the fun and get some celebratory wine. Before Lyra Shin could react, she was pulled along to the wedding celebration. The wedding was held in a restaurant, filled with well-wishers. Lyra Shin immediately spotted Kai Han surrounded by the crowd, holding a dazed Rena Ruan in his arms. Everyone held wine glasses, chatting and laughing merrily. Political Commissar Han, Comrade Ruan volunteered to drink for the bride. She's only had 1 glass, and you're already shielding her as if she were your wife. As the words fell, the culprit who spoke had already passed out drunk on the table, snoring loudly. While the lively restaurant froze for a moment, everyone saw Lyra Shin standing at the door. Kai Han also noticed her and felt an inexplicable panic in his heart. He quickly placed the unsteady Rena Ruan in a chair and walked over to explain. Lyra, Rena couldn't handle her alcohol well. So I just helped her out a bit. Don't overthink it. Lyra Shin looked at Kai Han, curling her lips into a smile. I know, I won't take it to heart. Kai Han watched Lyra Shin, who was smiling on the surface but showed not a ripple of emotion in her eyes, and felt an inexplicable turmoil in his chest. Even though she was right in front of him, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was slipping out of his grasp for good. He opened his mouth to say something more when a sudden exclamation came from behind him. Comrade Ruan, what's wrong? Kai Han quickly turned around and rushed over the next second. At that moment, Rena Ruan was curled up on the ground, clutching her chest, her face purple and struggling to breathe. Lyra Shin had seen Rena Ruan like this in her past life. She was having an asthma attack. She watched as Kai Han pulled Rena Ruan into his arms without hesitation, gently pressing on her chest. Once Rena's breathing stabilized, he immediately picked her up and rushed out without a moment's delay, leaving everyone else behind, including Lyra Shin. Lyra Shin smiled, calmly watching the scene unfold, confirming it once again with her own eyes. In Kai Han's heart, no one was more important than Rena Ruan. Chapter 7. The starting point of a new life. Lyra Shin withdrew her gaze, offering congratulations to the newlywed couple and bidding farewell to her companions in the courtyard. Then she went straight home and fell into an exhausted sleep. That night, Kai Han did not return. Day after day passed, with only 3 days left until National Day and just 72 hours remaining before her departure. Kai Han still hasn't returned. Lyra Shin went to the station to queue up and buy a long-distance train ticket to the capital, then took out her suitcase and started packing. She put her skincare products, jewelry, and clothes into the suitcase. Apart from the clothes she would wear in the next couple of days, there was almost no trace of her left in this home. Just as she pressed the lock on the suitcase and lifted it, a large hand suddenly gripped her wrist. Where are you going? Facing Kai Han's somewhat flustered expression, Lyra Shin appeared increasingly calm. What's gotten into you? I just thought the wardrobe was a bit messy and decided to pack away some clothes I don't wear. As she spoke, she pointed to the bag beside her. I also sorted out some of your unworn clothes. Those were all clothes she had once bought for Kai Han, but he never wore them even once. Since he didn't like them, let's clear them all away together. Kai Han stared intently at Lyra Shin, his hanging heart slowly settling down. It was just a dream where Lyra Shin quietly left him, and no matter how hard he searched in the dream, he couldn't find her. The uneasiness in my heart after waking up couldn't be suppressed, so I rushed back. Thinking about it now, he was indeed a bit overreacting. Dreams are all fake. And besides, Lyra Shin liked him so much back then. How could she ever leave him? Watching Kai Han return to normal, Lyra Shin withdrew her hand from his and set the suitcase aside. In the evening, the two sat at the dining table having dinner. This might be their last dinner together. Lyra Shin remained silent. But Kai Han suddenly remembered something and spoke up. In a couple of days, it'll be National Day, and also your birthday. Just as he finished speaking, the landline phone beside the sofa rang. Kai Han had to stop the conversation to answer the phone, and his expression changed after just a few words. After hanging up, he said to Lyra Shin, I have something to attend to, so I won't be eating. I might be back late tonight, so don't wait for me. With that, he opened the door and hurried off. Lyra Shin smiled and continued eating as if nothing had happened. Wait for him. She stopped waiting long ago. And the only person who could make Kai Han this anxious was Rena Ruan. No one else. On National Day, the moment Lyra Shin opened her eyes, she saw the clear and sunny weather outside the window. In an exceptionally good mood, a radiant smile unconsciously curled at the corners of her lips. Kai Han, who had just pushed the door open, happened to catch this sight and asked, What's got you so happy? Without looking at her, Lyra Shin replied with a smile. My birthday coinciding with the nation's birthday feels like a rebirth. Of course I'm happy. Kai Han nodded in agreement as she walked in, saying, There's a flag-raising ceremony later. I'll go change into my military uniform first. She opened the wardrobe, and a strange look flashed in her eyes. Why do you only have so few clothes left now? Lyra Shin was making the bed and replied without thinking, Oh, I didn't like those anymore, so I threw them away. Kai Han didn't suspect anything. Then after I finish attending the flag-raising ceremony, I can take you to the mall to buy a couple of new ones. Lyra Shin smiled without responding. Having lived with Kai Han for decades in her past life, This was the first time he had taken the initiative to say he would take her shopping for clothes. Belated affection is cheaper than grass. Why bring up old feelings now? After Kai-han left, Lyra Shun made herself breakfast and ate it slowly. She then placed the last 2 pieces of clothing from the wardrobe into the suitcase, and from the bottom drawer, took out the forced divorce papers, leaving them in the most conspicuous spot on the desk. Once the 30 days are up, the marriage will be automatically dissolved. The words of the staff member echoed in Lyra Shun's ears. Carrying the suitcase, she descended the stairs, step by step, leaving behind the marital home she shared with Kai-han. Leaving behind this home that no longer bore any trace of her, on the flag-raising square, the stirring national anthem began to play. The national flag slowly rose into the high sky, and a relieved, joyful smile spread across Lyra Shun's face. She began to stride forward, embracing a bright future. Chapter 8. New encounters on the journey. Lyra Shun arrived at the train station, where the crowd was large due to the National Day holiday. She waited in line for a long time before finally boarding the train. As she sat down and gazed at the familiar scenery outside the window, a sense of tranquility filled her heart. Yet, it was also mixed with longing for the capital and the future ahead. With a rumble, the train started moving. Lyra Shun withdrew her gaze from the window, catching a glimpse of the man seated beside her. The person was wearing a V-neck t-shirt and a pair of flared jeans, looking very stylish. What interested her the most was that he was holding a camera, flipping through the photos one by one. Lyra Shun couldn't resist her curiosity and leaned slightly to take a look, immediately letting out an exclamation of amazement. The camera was filled with stunning landscape photos from various places, both beautiful and inspiring. Lyra Shun's voice startled the man, who immediately turned his head and locked eyes with her. She noticed the man had a pair of very bright eyes, which were now looking at her with curiosity. Lyra suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. "Sorry, I just thought the photos you took were really beautiful, so I couldn't help but." The man smiled, his voice slightly hoarse. "Thank you. Hello, I'm Lu Wentao, a photographer." Lyra Shun also introduced herself with a smile. "My name is Lyra Shun." After that, the two started chatting and found they got along very well. Lyra Shun learned that Lu Wentao had traveled to many places and taken numerous photos of landscapes, which made her quite envious. Suddenly, she remembered that there was also a camera kept in her grandfather's old house. According to Grandpa, that was Grandma's favorite thing because she loved taking photos and dreamed of traveling to see the magnificent landscapes. Unfortunately, Grandma was in poor health and passed away early. Back then, Lyra Shun also longed to travel. But then she met Kai-han. Without hesitation, she gave up the idea of traveling and chose to become his devoted wife and mother. Ended up with nothing in the end. Now that she's finally out, perhaps she can rediscover her original aspirations and take a good look at this vast world. Comrade Lyra, what are you thinking about? Come take a look at this one. How is it? Lyra Shun snapped out of her thoughts and looked at the camera in Lu Wentao's hand. It's a photo of a national flag fluttering. And this place looks very familiar. She was somewhat stunned. Isn't this the military district? Was Lu Wentao also there during the flag-raising ceremony? What's wrong? Is something off? Lu Wentao noticed a change in Lyra Shun's mood and asked in confusion. Lyra Shun shook her head. Nothing. The photo is a bit far away, but it has a unique hazy beauty. Lu Wentao's eyes lit up. You still understand me best. The two exchanged a smile and huddled together again. Flipping through the photos in the camera one by one, the scenery outside the train window rapidly receded as the train carried the two of them speeding towards the capital. At the same time, after finishing the flag-raising ceremony, Kai-han saw a cake shop on his way home. Remembering that it was Lyra Shun's birthday, he went in and bought her a strawberry-flavored cake. He had seen her eat strawberries before, so she probably wasn't allergic. As soon as he entered the residential compound, Kai-han sensed something was wrong. The room was too quiet and too empty. As if many things were missing, he placed the cake on the dining table and called out, "Lyra," but there was no response. A sudden wave of unease surged in his heart, and he rushed into the bedroom in a few quick strides. The bedroom was empty too. Where has Lyra Shun gone? Kai-han couldn't help but think of his previous dream, and the panic in his heart grew even stronger. But how could she leave him? Just as Kai-han was about to open the wardrobe to check, the phone in the living room suddenly rang. He halted abruptly and turned around, striding quickly toward the sofa. Lyra Shen wouldn't leave without a word. It must be her calling. Kai-Han swiftly picked up the receiver, his voice tinged with urgency. Lyra, Chapter 9, Reunion with an Old Flame. The phone call brought forth Rena Ruan's delicate voice. Kai, it's me. At that moment, Kai-Han's heart sank, an indescribable sense of loss washing over him. He closed his eyes briefly, suppressing the growing unease, and spoke. Rena, what's wrong? The doctor said I can be discharged. Will you come pick me up? Yet at this moment, Kai-Han's gaze was fixed intently on the TV stand, on the empty spot there. Where is the porcelain doll that was placed there? How did it disappear? It was Lyra Shen's favorite decoration. She would dust it every day. When exactly did it go missing? Kai-Han desperately tried to recall, but not a single memory surfaced. His face turned slightly pale, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. It felt as if he had lost something extremely important to him. On the other end of the phone, Rena Ruan, hearing no response from Kai-Han, raised her voice in confusion. Brother Kai, are you still there? Kai-Han snapped back to attention. Got it. I'll come pick you up. With that, he hung up the phone. He scanned the room and only then realized many of Lyra Shen's belongings were gone. Kai-Han simply couldn't believe that his wife of several years would suddenly leave him. No way, she must have gone out for something. She'll definitely come back tonight. With these words, he fled the residential compound as if escaping. On the way to the hospital to pick up Rena Ruan, Kai-Han remained silent the entire time. Rena Ruan thought he was acting very strange today, so she spoke up to ask, Brother Kai, what's wrong with you today? Did something happen? Kai-Han didn't answer. His gaze fixed straight ahead on the road, but his mind was in complete turmoil. When they arrived at the residential compound, Kai-Han walked Rena Ruan to her doorstep, then glanced at his own home next door. He hesitated, unable to believe that one day he would actually be afraid to go home. Rena Ruan watched this scene, her eyes flashing. Brother Kai, did you have a fight with Sister Lyra? Kai-Han remained silent. A fight? No. He and Lyra Shen had never argued. She was always gentle and obedient toward him. He could feel that Lyra Shen's heart was completely filled with him. Yet why was he now so panicked, even afraid to go home, fearing she wouldn't be there? Seeing Kai-Han's furrowed brows, Rena Ruan concluded that the two must have had a fight. Rena Ruan thought for a moment, then tentatively asked, could it be because you stayed with me at the hospital for several days in a row? If that's the case, I can explain it to Sister Lyra for you. With that, he pulled Kai-Han to his doorstep and knocked on the door. Lyra, are you home? Kai-Han instinctively held his breath, hoping to hear Lyra Shen's voice from inside, but after a long while, there wasn't the slightest movement from the room. Is Sister Lyra not home? Brother Kai, let's use the key to open the door. After the door was opened, Rena Ruan entered first. Kai-Han looked at the still empty house, feeling a suffocating tightness in his chest. Suddenly hearing Rena Ruan's exclamation, his heart skipped a beat, and he immediately had a bad premonition. The next second, Rena Ruan emerged from the bedroom, holding a piece of paper in her hand. Her expression was quite complicated as she looked at Kai-Han, handing him the item in her hand. Brother Kai, take a look at this. Kai-Han took the paper and lowered his gaze. What caught his eye were the bold words centered at the top of the page. Forced divorce application. His eyes widened abruptly, feeling as if struck by a heavy blow to the heart. Chapter 10. The Challenges of a New Life. Kai-Han's hand clenched the paper tightly, his heart in turmoil. He couldn't figure out where exactly things had gone wrong. Why did his wife suddenly disappear, leaving him with divorce papers? Everything had been fine before, so why did Lyra Shen vanish from his side without any warning? Kai-Han kept reflecting and only then realized that at some point, Lyra Shen had stopped giving him the attention and warmth she once did. He stood dazedly in the empty room, feeling nothing but a chilling cold throughout his body. Beside him, Rena Ruan held his hand and spoke. Brother Kai, what's wrong? Are you okay? Sister Lyra's temper is too much. Even if it's just an argument, she shouldn't. But before she could finish, Kai-Han interrupted. You should go back first. I need some time alone. Rena Ruan's throat tightened, but he said nothing more and left Kai-Han's home. Turning back to look every few steps, the door opened and closed, leaving Kai-Han alone in the room. He glanced once more at the divorce papers in his hand and moved toward the bedroom. After searching carefully, He found that all of Lyra Shen's belongings had vanished without a trace. Even that suitcase had disappeared. Kai-han smiled bitterly. That day when Lyra Shen packed the suitcase, she must have already made up her mind to leave him, yet she could lie to him without batting an eye, and he had believed her so easily, even arrogantly convinced that she couldn't live without him. Kai-han sat slumped on the bed, his heart filled with confusion and bewilderment. Why? Why on earth did she insist on divorcing him, even resorting to coercive measures? While Kai-han was tormented by agony and inner conflict, on the other side, Lyra Shen had already embarked on a new journey. Capital City Railway Station. Lyra Shen and Lu Wentao walked side by side out of the train station. Just as they stepped outside, Lu Wentao turned to Lyra Shen and said, "I have something to attend to, so I'll take my leave now. Perhaps we'll meet again if fate allows." Lyra Shen nodded and replied, "All right." Watching Lu Wentao get into a taxi by the roadside, Lyra Shen turned her gaze back and saw the three large characters above the train station entrance behind her, Capital Station. Only then did she truly realize that she had left Northern Shaanxi, left Kai-han, coming to this city to start a new life. Lyra Shen took a deep breath, filled with energy as she walked forward and hailed a taxi by the roadside. She gazed at the scenery outside the car window, silently cheering herself on. From now on, she would live only for herself. Half an hour later, the car stopped at the entrance of Buju Alley. Lyra Shen got out of the car and looked at the long alley filled with the vibrancy of everyday life before her, lined with low red brick houses on both sides. Stalls were set up at the entrance, selling snacks, toys, cigarettes, you name it. The entire alley was brimming with the lively atmosphere of daily life. Lyra Shen instantly fell in love with this heartwarming place. No wonder her colleagues who had visited the capital before all recommended renting a place in Buju Alley. After spending the entire afternoon, Lyra Shen finally settled into her new home in Buju Hutong. The apartment is on the 4th floor, with 2 units per level. Her place is on the left. Though a bit small, it's more than enough for her to live alone. What she loves most is the balcony. Standing there, she can see the lively households below, which brings her great joy. After roughly tidying up, Lyra Shen decided to go out and buy some toiletries. By the time I finished shopping and returned, it was already evening. The alley was filled with the aroma of food everywhere, and the sounds of families opening their windows to call their children home for dinner could be heard. Lyra Shen smiled slightly, her heart filled with peace and tranquility. Carrying 2 large bags, she turned a corner when suddenly, the sound of a car horn blared behind her, accompanied by a somewhat familiar voice, "Comrade Lyra." Lyra Shen turned around to see Lu Wentao sitting in the driver's seat, his head sticking out of the car window, looking at her with a face full of surprise. "What are you doing here?" Lyra Shen was also surprised and asked. Lu Wentao parked the car to the side, got out, and pointed to a house not far away. "I live here. What about you? Why are you here too?" As he spoke, he also pulled out a large bag from the car. Lyra Shen smiled. "What a coincidence. I live here too." When both of them coincidentally reached the 4th floor, Lyra Shen realized that when Dao Lu was actually right across from her. Chapter 11, a new chapter in the capital. When Dao Lu also looked surprised. "We really are fated." Lyra Shen also found it quite astonishing. "Since we're so fated, I bought some ingredients to make a big pot stew. Would you like to join me?" Lu Wentao raised the bag in his hand and arched an eyebrow at Lyra Shen. Lyra Shen thought for a moment, then nodded. "Sure, let me put my things down first." After a while, Lyra Shen went over to Lu Wentao's place across the way. His house is larger than his own, with a rather spacious living room. Against the wall stands a large table covered entirely with film rolls and photographs. While Lyra Shen was surveying the room, Lu Wentao had already set up the pot and prepared the ingredients. He waved at Lyra Shen. "Stop looking. Come and eat." The two of them sat around the small square table together, enjoying the hearty stew. Lyra Shen was eating with great relish. In fact, this kind of stew pot is quite popular in Northern Shaanxi, but Kai-han didn't like it. To accommodate his taste, she rarely ate it. Come to think of it, it had been many years since she last tasted this. Halfway through the meal, Lu Wentao suddenly remembered something. He pulled out 2 bottles of beer from a nearby bag, opened them, and poured the beer into glasses. "Today is National Day, let's celebrate. Can you drink?" Lyra Shen spoke up. "Never tried it before." But I'm willing to give it a shot." As she said this, she gestured for Lu Wentao to pour her a glass. She took a sip from the cup. The taste was somewhat spicy, but bearable, and so the two of them continued chatting while dipping ingredients into the hot pot and drinking. Lyra Shen found it unbelievable. She hadn't even dared to dream of such a carefree life, because her mind was entirely occupied with Kai Han, consumed by thoughts of how to treat him well and how to make him like her in return. It was indeed a self-imposed prison. Lu Wentao suddenly asked the Lyra Shen sitting across from him, "Comrade Lyra, why did you come to the capital?" Lyra Shen fell silent for a moment before speaking up. "I wanted to come out and see different scenery. I've never been to the capital before in all my years." After a pause, she suddenly turned the question back to Lu Wentao. "What about you?" "I'm a local from the capital, most of the time. I travel around different places for photography and inspiration." "That's wonderful," Lyra Shen said with eyes full of admiration. "I wish I could experience different sights like you do." Lu Wentao met Lyra Shen's longing gaze and, after a moment's thought, spoke up. "I don't have much going on these days. How about I show you around the capital?" Lyra Shen's eyes lit up. "Really? That sounds great." Watching Lyra Shen's childlike excitement, Lu Wentao felt a slight ripple in his heart, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up. In the following days, Lu Wentao took Lyra Shen all over the capital city. The two watched the flag-raising ceremony at Tiananmen Square and climbed the ancient Great Wall at Badaling. They strolled through various hutongs and alleys, and visited the Forbidden City and the Summer Palace. I also tried many local snacks in the capital and even watched a traditional Peking opera performance. That day, as they were just leaving the royal temple in the capital, Lu Wentao said to Lyra Shen, "In the evening, I have a gathering. Would you like to come along and have some fun?" Lyra Shen was taken aback. "No need, thanks, it's fine. You definitely haven't been there before. I'll take you to check it out," Lu Wentao said as he opened the passenger door for her to get in. After getting in himself, he quickly drove away from the temple. When Lyra Shen got out of the car, she saw the incredibly lively scene before her. Only then did she realize that Lu Wentao had brought her to a karaoke bar. Seeing Lyra Shen standing still, Lu Wentao spoke, his voice carrying a hint of reassurance. "I'll just go in to say hello. If you don't like it, we'll leave right away." In her past life, Lyra Shen had been to karaoke bars before, but Kai Han didn't like them. Thinking such places weren't quite respectable, she stopped going there to avoid making Kai Han dislike her. Now, hearing Teresa Teng's songs coming from inside, she felt a bit tempted. She used to love listening to Teresa Teng's songs the most. Chapter 12, Dancing into a New Life. Lyra Shen smiled and said, "It's fine, don't worry about me, let's go in." The karaoke bar was a large, open space without any partitions. On the central stage, someone was singing Teresa Teng's "I Only Care About You." Below, many small round tables were set up, already occupied by numerous people chatting and listening to the music, occasionally taking sips of their drinks. Lu Wentao led Lyra Shen to a table in the center, where two men and a woman were already seated. Upon seeing him, a bespectacled man quickly greeted, "You're finally here, have a seat." No sooner had he spoken than he noticed Lyra Shen, his eyes widening in surprise. "Brother Lu, who is this comrade? Could she be your girlfriend?" Lu Wentao quickly explained, "No nonsense. She's just a friend of mine." As he spoke, he subtly glanced at Lyra Shen beside him, afraid she might get angry. Lyra Shen smiled and generously introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Lyra Shen, nice to meet you." Both men enthusiastically shared their names. The girl, being naturally sociable, came over and took Lyra Shen's arm. "My name is Lu Wenling. I'm his biological sister." She pointed her finger at Lu Wentao. Lyra Shen paused for a moment, her gaze scanning between the two. They did resemble each other somewhat, then she smiled and said, "Hello." Afterwards, a few people gathered together chatting and listening to music, feeling quite relaxed. Lu Wentao kept glancing at Lyra Shen from time to time, as if afraid she might get bored. Lu Wenling, who was nearby, was seeing her brother like this for the first time and was somewhat surprised. She quietly leaned in and whispered in Lu Wentao's ear, "Bro, is Lyra really not your girlfriend? Or, do you like her?" Lu Wentao was startled and glanced at Lyra Shen, who was engrossed in listening to music and hadn't noticed them. He only felt his heart beating a little too fast. Gently pushing his younger sister away, he warned, "Don't talk nonsense. If she hears you, I won't let you off easy." Lu Wenling stuck out her tongue but didn't dare to say anything more at this moment. Teresa Teng's song ended, and the lights in the music hall dimmed slightly. Lyra Shen was still puzzled when she saw the people around her stand up one after another, pairing a man with a woman, placing hands on each other and starting to dance in circles. So this music hall also allowed dancing. Just as Lyra Shen was watching with great interest, she suddenly heard Lu Wentao's voice beside her. "Would you like to give it a try?" Lyra Shen tilted her head. Dancing, want to try it?" Lyra Shen watched the swirling skirts of the girls on the dance floor, feeling a sudden urge in her heart. "I can't." No sooner had she spoken than Lu Wentao pulled her up and led her to the center of the dance floor. "I'll teach you." Then, with one hand holding her wrist and the other lightly resting on her waist, "First like this, I step back. You step forward, I step forward, you step back. Now, twirl." As he spoke, he released the hand resting on her waist and raised his other arm, spinning Lyra Shen in a full circle around it. Then, he gently pulled her back, placing his hand on her waist once more. "How was that? Not too difficult, right?" Lu Wentao lowered his head, his soft voice whispering into Lyra Shen's ear, sending a tingling sensation through her. Lyra Shen looked up and locked eyes with Lu Wentao, smiling softly as she said, "Not difficult at all. It's quite fun." Afterward, the two spun round and round on the dance floor until they were utterly exhausted. After leaving the nightclub, Lu Wentao instructed the other two men to escort his sister home. He, meanwhile, took Lyra Shen into his own car and headed toward Buzhu Hutong. On the road, Lu Wentao spoke up. "Where would you like to go tomorrow?" "I can." Lyra Shen shook her head. "However, I won't be going out tomorrow. A few days of fun is enough. Thank you for taking me to so many places these past days." Lu Wentao was startled, recalling her earlier words about wanting to see different scenery. The words slipped out before he could stop them. "Are you leaving the capital?" Lyra Shen was taken aback for a moment, then burst into laughter. "How could that be? I really love this city, the capital, and plan to settle down here. It's just that I need to find a job soon, or I'll be eating through my savings." Only then did Wen Daolu secretly breathe a sigh of relief. As long as she wasn't leaving, everything was fine. Chapter 13. The Dawn of a New Career. Hearing that Lyra Shen was looking for a job, Wen Daolu asked, "What kind of work are you interested in? Maybe I can help." Lyra Shen thought for a moment and said, "I've only worked in a military uniform factory in northern Shaanxi before, but I went to university and majored in journalism." After graduating in her previous life, the school assigned her to a newspaper publication unit in the capital, but she gave it up because she didn't want to be too far from her grandfather. Later, when she met Kai Han, her mind was completely occupied by him, and she became even more unwilling to leave his side for a moment. Unexpectedly, after all the twists and turns, she still ended up in the capital, journalism major. "So your writing must be quite good. Maybe there's a position that suits you." Lu Wentao's eyes lit up upon hearing her words. Lyra Shen, however, felt a bit embarrassed because those were memories from her past life, decades ago now. And she wasn't even sure if she could still write like that. "I've been graduated for several years now, and I've forgotten a lot of things. It's okay, we can go take a look first. I'll take you there tomorrow." As Lu Wentao spoke, the car had already arrived at Buzhu Alley. The two got out of the car together and parted ways when they reached the 4th floor. Lu Wentao added another sentence. "I'll be waiting for you at the door at 9 tomorrow morning." "All right." The next day, Lyra Shen got ready and saw Lu Wentao at the door. As soon as she stepped out, she was slightly taken aback. The Lu Wentao before her was quite different from before, compared to his usual casual attire. Today he was wearing a blue suit. His entire demeanor no longer resembled that of a carefree photographer, but rather more like a seasoned businessman who had ventured into commerce. While Lyra Shen was sizing up Lu Wentao, a flash of admiration also flickered in his eyes. The woman before him had waist-length black hair, tied into a ponytail that cascaded down her back. She wore a V-neck floral maxi dress that accentuated her gentle and serene aura, while her slightly smiling lips added a touch of allure to her beauty. A shout from downstairs snapped Lu Wentao back to reality. He cleared his throat awkwardly and spoke up. "Let's go." The drive took about 40 minutes before Lu Wentao parked the car outside a traditional courtyard house. Lyra Shen got out of the car and followed Lu Wentao inside. Just as I reached the door, I heard several voices from inside. "Brother Lou, you're here." Lyra Shan paused for a moment, then followed inside, only to see an antique-style room with a counter filled with photo frames and cameras. The walls were covered with photographs, mostly landscapes, with a few portraits mixed in. This was actually a photo studio. Lyra Shan followed Lu Wentao past the counter and walked inside, where there were two more connected rooms. When Lyra Shan saw a large machine in the center of the room, she was startled. Wasn't this the machine called a computer that she had seen on TV in her previous life? How could such a machine exist here? Noticing Lyra Shan's eyes fixed on the computer, Lu Wentao asked, "Do you know how to operate this machine?" Lyra Shan shook her head. Forget about operating it. This was her first time even seeing the actual device. "It's okay, I'll teach you later. Once you've learned, you can come work here." "Alright." Lu Wentao looked at Lyra Shan with hopeful eyes. Only then did Lyra Shan react, her voice filled with disbelief. "This is your shop?" She felt a bit overwhelmed. Was Lu Wentao really this wealthy? Lyra Shan pulled her wandering thoughts back. "But I don't know how to do anything." "You probably don't need a journalist here, do you?" Lu Wentao picked up a few books from the nearby table. "Actually, back in northern Shaanxi, I'd already thought about starting a photography magazine. I'd handle the photography and hire someone to write the articles, sharing the beauty of our country's landscapes. So, I really need you, Lyra." Transitioning from Comrade Lyra to just Lyra made Lyra Shan feel somewhat unaccustomed. As for Lu Wentao placing such great trust in her, it left her even more at a loss. "But I only learned some basics in college and have no real experience to speak of." "You." Although Lu Wentao's vision filled her with longing and aspiration, she truly had nothing substantial to offer in return. "It's okay, if you don't know how, just learn. Start with learning how to operate a computer. Take these books back and study them carefully." With that, Lu Wentao shoved the books into Lyra Shan's hands. Lyra Shan was stunned. She looked at Lu Wentao and asked, "Why me?" Chapter 14, Old Dreams, New Paths. Lu Wentao did not respond. This was his selfish desire. He wanted to keep Lyra Shan by his side, to be with her every day. Once she had adjusted and learned some new skills, he even dreamed of taking her on photography trips to various places. This must be what Lyra Shan longed for as well. Lu Wentao smiled and said, "Alright, how about I show you around some other places?" Just as he finished speaking, a voice came from outside. "Brother Lu, someone's looking for you." Lu Wentao hesitated for a moment while looking at Lyra Shan. Lyra Shan spoke up, "Go ahead with your business, I can explore on my own." After Lu Wentao left, she glanced at the book in her hand and casually flipped through a couple of pages. It seemed quite interesting. Recalling how rapidly computer technology would advance in the next decade or so in her previous life, she realized that careers in this field would become highly coveted. Lyra Shan felt this was an opportunity worth seizing and decided to study it seriously. Half an hour later, seeing that Lu Wentao still hadn't returned, Lyra Shan went out for a casual stroll. She reached a phone booth by the street and thought that since she had been in the capital for several days, she should let her grandfather know. So she dialed the landline of the old house in northern Shaanxi, and the call was answered shortly after. "Grandpa, it's Lyra." "Lyra, you're in the capital." The old man's voice carried a hint of concern. "Yes, Grandpa, I've settled in here now. Once I find a job and get completely stable, I'll come back to see you." After a long pause, the voice on the other end finally spoke. "You went to the capital without telling Kai. He's been searching for you like crazy these past 2 days." Though only a few days had passed, hearing the name Kai Han again made Lyra Shan feel as if a lifetime had gone by. The familiar ache in her heart was gone. She thought perhaps she had truly moved on. "Grandpa, I'm sorry for not explaining clearly earlier. The reason I came to the capital is because I wanted to see the world, and also because I'm thinking about divorcing Kai Han." "Ah," the old man sighed on the other end of the line. "I know you've always been a decisive person since childhood. It was the same when you married Kai, and it's still the same now. Grandpa is old now. I just want you to be happy and safe." Lyra Shan's eyes reddened slightly, knowing her grandfather would always stand by her side. "Thank you, Grandpa," the old man spoke again. "But you still need to make things clear with Kai. You can't just leave like this, leaving him clueless and searching for you endlessly." Hearing her grandfather's words, Lyra Shan fell silent. Why would Kai Han still be looking for her? Shouldn't he be happier now that she's gone? After all, she had made room for him and Rina Ron. However, after hearing her grandfather's words, she thought perhaps she should make things clear with him. After hanging up her grandfather's call, Lyra Shun was about to dial the family residence's number but ultimately didn't. She realized she truly didn't know what to say over the phone. So she might as well write a letter and send it back. Lyra Shun now also felt some regret. Why hadn't she left a letter when she departed back then? Office of the Political Commissar, Northern Shaanxi Military District. Kai-Han finished reading the military report, rubbed his aching temple, and a trace of gloom flashed in his eyes. Lyra Shun had been gone for nearly a week. At first, he thought she had left in anger and would return after a day or two. But he waited for her at home for a full day and night, yet there was no sign of her. Kai-Han was completely panicked, rushing to the old family home overnight to see his grandfather. Only then did he learn that Lyra Shun had gone to the capital. Grandfather, why did Lyra suddenly want to go to the capital? Kai-Han's eyes were filled with confusion. The old man looked at his grandson-in-law before him. He had actually vaguely guessed Lyra Shun's intentions. He spoke with deep sincerity. Kai. Lyra has been like this since she was a child. Once she makes up her mind, no one can persuade her otherwise. Back when she liked you, she begged me to pull all sorts of strings to bring you two together. Now that she's made this decision, it means there are issues between you. Kai-Han's face paled instantly. Grandfather. I don't understand. We were perfectly fine. So why? The old man, however, shook his head with a sigh and said no more. After leaving the old house, Kai-Han pondered for a long time, starting from the day Lyra Shun filed for a forced divorce. Scene after scene flashed through his mind, until the only reason he could think of was Rina Ron. Chapter 15. The knot that's hard to untie. Yes, ever since Rina Ron got divorced, he helped her find a job and let her stay in the family compound because of their childhood friendship. At first, Lyra Shun would ask him what their relationship was, and his answer was always that Rina Ron was just the girl next door to him. Later, when Lyra Shun stopped asking, he assumed she had come to terms with it and didn't mind, so he continued to care for and help Rina Ron without a second thought. Only now did I realize that Lyra Shun didn't come to terms with it. She simply stopped caring. That's why she left him with nothing but a divorce application before vanishing from his world without hesitation. The thought of it made Kai-Han feel as if his heart were being torn apart. It was his fault before. He failed to recognize his true feelings. At some point, Lyra Shun had already found her way into his heart. He just hadn't realized it yet. As for Rina Ron, he had thought about her a lot these past few days. He had liked her in his youth, but after marrying Lyra Shun, he never entertained any other thoughts. Taking care of her afterward was simply out of the bond they shared from growing up together. Kai-Han had already confirmed his feelings, but Lyra Shun had left, so afterward, he maintained a vague distance with Rina Ron. At that moment, a knock at the door interrupted Kai-Han's thoughts. In a low voice, he called out, "Come in." The door opened, and Rina Ron walked in. "Brother Kai." Kai-Han looked at her and asked, "What brings you here?" Rina Ron approached Kai-Han, stared at him for a while, and then said, "I have something to tell you." Kai-Han thought it was time to have a clear talk with her, so he nodded. "Millimeter, I also happen to have something to say to you." Rina Ron looked at the somewhat haggard Kai-Han before her, knowing it was because of Lyra Shun, thinking of how distant he had been with her these past 2 days. A shadow flickered in Rina Ron's eyes. She spoke up, "Brother Kai, still no news from Sister Lyra. Maybe she's made up her mind not to come back. Haven't you always? We could." Kai-Han listened to Rina Ron's words and caught the subtle affection in her eyes. He was momentarily stunned, feeling a pang of bitterness in his heart. Did Lyra Shun think the same way, which was why she left him without hesitation, leaving behind only a divorce application? Indeed, even he himself had been blinded by a single leaf, thinking the person in his heart was still Rina Ron before him. It wasn't until Lyra Shun left that he suddenly realized someone else had long taken her place in his heart. Kai-Han's eyes dimmed as he looked at Rina Ron and said firmly, "Rina, I don't deny my youthful affection for you, but after marrying Lyra, those feelings were gone." Rina Ron's face turned pale, her eyes slightly red. "That's not true. If you didn't have feelings for me, why would you always put me first? Brother Kai, in the past, I didn't understand my own heart. But now there are no obstacles between us anymore." As she spoke, she stepped forward, trying to grab Kai-Han's hand. Kai-han sidestepped to avoid her. Rena, I helped you only because of our childhood friendship. I never once thought about divorcing Lyra, but she's already gone, and she won't be coming back in the future. Kai-han's heart ached, but he still spoke firmly. I know I hurt her feelings. No matter where she is, I will find her and beg for her forgiveness. After saying this, he lowered his head and picked up a military report to read. I still have work to do. You should go back first. Rena Ruan had never seen Kai-han reject her like this before, leaving her momentarily stunned. She didn't stay long before leaving the office. When the room was finally empty except for Kai-han, he clutched his aching chest. Lyra, I will find you. I'll apologize to you, and from now on, my heart will belong to you alone. So, will you forgive me? You will, right? Chapter 16, New Love. Old Flame, Buju Alley, the capital. Lyra Shin had no idea about Kai-han's state of mind, nor did she want to know. After sending him a letter, she stayed at home reading the book Lu Wentao had given her. Meanwhile, Lu Wentao had been too busy to show up these past few days. After skimming through the book, Lyra Shin felt she still needed to actually operate that computer. She put down the book and checked the time. It was already 5 o'clock. I wonder if Lu Wentao is back yet. Lyra Shin opened her door and walked across to knock on his. But after a long while, there was no response. She thought he probably hadn't returned yet. Just as she was about to turn back, the door suddenly opened. Lu Wentao, bare-chested and wearing only a pair of shorts, appeared drowsily at the door. Lyra Shin was taken aback for a moment before averting her gaze. You're home. I thought you hadn't returned yet. Lu Wentao yawned. I went out of town for a shoot the past couple of days and just got back this afternoon. Did you need something? Lyra Shin looked at Lu Wentao's exhausted face and shook her head. It's nothing. You seem very tired, so I won't disturb you. Seeing that she was about to leave, Lu Wentao quickly called out to her. Lyra, if there's something on your mind, just say it. It's fine. I just wanted to say that I've roughly finished reading the book you gave me. I was wondering if I could go to your shop to get some hands-on practice. Of course you can. I thought it was something serious. I'll take you there tomorrow. No sooner had he finished speaking than a loud growling sound was heard. Both of them froze for a moment. Lu Wentao realized it was his own stomach growling and immediately blushed with embarrassment, his neck turning red. Lyra Shin watched the scene, a flicker of amusement flashing in her eyes. The man before her, though a year or two older, now gave off a childlike vibe. You haven't eaten yet. Perfect timing. I was just about to make dinner. Would you like to? Yes, absolutely. Lu Wentao cut off Lyra Shin before she could finish. After speaking, he glanced down at himself and added, let me put on some clothes. Wait for me a moment. Before long, Lu Wentao followed Lyra Shin to the opposite side. He also saw where Lyra Shin lived. Although it wasn't as spacious as his place, it was very tidy. Lyra Shin pointed to a small sofa in the living room and said to Lu Wentao, have a seat first. I'll go cook. It won't take long. With that, she headed to the kitchen. Lu Wentao went to the balcony to take a look, then came back inside and also entered the kitchen. But the kitchen wasn't very big, and when Lu Wentao stood behind Lyra Shin, she could clearly sense his presence. Why did you come in too? Go wait outside for a bit. Seeing pork stir-frying in her pan, Lu Wentao smiled and said, I can cook too. How about I help you? Lyra Shin was somewhat surprised, given that he usually wore expensive clothes and seemed well off. Plus he left early and returned late every day. She hadn't expected him to know how to cook. Lu Wentao sensed Lyra Shin's disbelief, so he took the spatula from her hand and gently nudged her aside. Go wait outside. I'll show you what I can do. Before Lyra Shin could react, she was already pushed out of the kitchen. She gazed at the tall figure of the man in the kitchen and, for some reason, suddenly thought of Kai-han. He could cook too, yet he had never made a single meal for her. She knew he could cook from seeing him skillfully prepare soup for Rena Ruan at her place. Now, watching Lu Wentao, who had known her for less than a month yet had already cooked for her many times, Lyra Shin couldn't help but feel a slight ripple in her heart. Chapter 17 The Return of an Old Love. In less than half an hour, 3 dishes were placed on the dining table. Lyra Shin and Lu Wentao sat facing each other when he said, Lyra, try it quickly. She picked up her chopsticks, took a piece of meat, and put it in her mouth. Her eyes lit up, and she immediately nodded in approval. Lu Wentao, I never expected your cooking skills to be this good. As she spoke, she couldn't resist picking up another piece. Hearing this, a smile immediately appeared on Lu Wentao's face. If it's delicious, then eat more. The two of them sat around the table and began eating, with Lu Wentao also telling her about the places he had visited in the past couple of days. I went to the beach in the neighboring city of Jinsha and took many photos of the seascape. After we finish eating, I'll show you the pictures I took. Lyra Shan nodded. Okay. The two spent over 40 minutes having dinner. After Lyra Shan finished cleaning up, Lu Wentao eagerly pulled her to the opposite side. He took out his camera and showed her the photos inside. Lyra Shan looked through each one, all of which depicted the breathtaking scenery of the sea merging with the sky. She couldn't help but murmur, "So beautiful, I wish I could see it for myself." Lu Wentao heard her and immediately responded, "Of course, I'll take you there." Lyra Shan was taken aback, raising her eyes just in time to meet Lu Wentao's lingering gaze. Their eyes met, and Lyra Shan felt her heartbeat quicken slightly. After a long moment, she finally averted her gaze and looked back at the camera. Lu Wentao noticed the faint blush on her cheeks, and a part of his heart softened. His voice grew even gentler. "How about tomorrow? I've just finished my tasks, so it's perfect timing. What do you think?" Lyra Shan hadn't expected it to happen so soon and instinctively said, "But aren't we supposed to operate that computer tomorrow?" Lu Wentao thought for a moment and left the decision to Lyra Shan. "Then what do you say? If you want to operate the computer tomorrow, I can teach you. After you've learned the basics, we can go to Jinsha. That would work too. By then, the weather won't be as hot as it is now, which might make sightseeing more pleasant. Aren't you busy?" Lyra Shan asked. "Not too bad. I still have time to take you out." Lyra Shan looked at Lu Wentao for a long moment before finally nodding. "All right then, let's go to Jinsha first. And then come back to learn how to operate the computer." "Okay, whatever you say." Lu Wentao smiled, then stood up and changed into a pair of shoes. "Then you stay here and keep an eye on things. I'll go to the station to buy the tickets." With that, he was about to head out. "Lu Wentao," Lyra Shan called out to him. They hadn't known each other for long, but she could sense that Lu Wentao was genuinely good to her. Even Kai Han, who had lived with her for decades in her past life, had never accommodated her to this extent. This gave her an unreal feeling. She wanted to ask why, but didn't know how to phrase the question. Lu Wentao noticed that Lyra Shan seemed somewhat off, but she remained silent. He walked up to her and asked softly, "Lyra, what's wrong?" Lyra Shan snapped out of her thoughts, met Lu Wentao's concerned gaze, and forced a faint smile. "Let me go with you." Seeing the smile on her face, Lu Wentao couldn't help but smile as well. "All right." The two walked downstairs together, chatting and laughing as they made their way to Lu Wentao's car parked outside the alley. Lu Wentao was the first to open the passenger door for her. They exchanged a smile. Just as she was about to get in, suddenly, a familiar hoarse voice came from behind them to the right. "Lyra." Lyra Shan was taken aback, pausing for a moment before slowly turning her head. There, standing in the corner not far away, was a man dressed in military uniform. It was none other than Kai Han. Chapter 18. A Final Farewell. Lyra Shan truly hadn't expected him to appear in the capital, nor had she anticipated seeing him again. For a long moment, she couldn't quite process it. She stood rooted to the spot, watching as Kai Han approached step by step, her thoughts momentarily frozen. But soon she came to her senses and looked at Lu Wentao, who had remained silent beside her. She met his gaze, which was fixed directly on her. His eyes were full of confusion, even a trace of unease, yet he had restrained himself from speaking, simply observing her reaction. This side of Lu Wentao made Lyra Shan's heart soften involuntarily. She whispered to him, "You go ahead and buy the tickets first. I still have some things to take care of." After a moment's thought, she added, "As for, I'll explain it to you later." Lu Wentao didn't say anything, just nodded and got into the car before driving away. At the entrance of the alley, only Lyra Shan and Kai Han remained. Kai Han looked at Lyra Shan before him. Though it had only been a month since they last met, she felt strangely unfamiliar to him. Especially the smile she just gave that man made his heart fill with panic, such a bright and cheerful smile. It seemed she had never shown it to him before. Thinking this, Kai Han couldn't help but ask, "Lyra, that man just now." Lyra Shan cut him off. "Did you come here just for this?" Kai Han looked at Lyra Shan, who was being cold and distant towards him, and felt a pang in his chest. When did it start? The once gentle and considerate Lyra Shen would treat him with such indifference. This left him somewhat at a loss. Kaihan shook his head. No, I'm taking you back to northern Sharangssi. Lyra Shen looked at Kaihan with amusement. Didn't you receive my letter? Or did you not see the divorce application I left? I received it and saw it. But Lyra, I know you've misunderstood my relationship with Rena. I can explain. Kaihan walked up to Lyra Shen. A glimmer of hope in his eyes. Lyra Shen shook her head. Explain. There's nothing to explain. It's always the same old line. You only see her as a sister, nothing more. I'm tired of hearing it. Kaihan's eyes darkened. But he still explained. I know I didn't do well before, but I'll change in the future. Will you come back with me? Kaihan, we can't go back. From the moment I filed for a forced divorce, I've had no expectations of you anymore. Go back, live a good life with Rena Wan. And don't come looking for me again. After saying this, Lyra Shen turned and walked towards Buju Alley. She had just taken a step when Kaihan grabbed her wrist, pulling her abruptly in front of him. Lyra, there's really nothing between Rena and me. I've already made it clear to her. Will you give me another chance? Lyra Shen looked into Kaihan's eyes and caught a fleeting glimpse of pain and panic in them. Suddenly, she sensed something, but found it hard to believe. She blurted out. Kaihan, don't tell me that after I leave, you'll realize you actually care about me. Kaihan remained silent, but the pain and restraint in his eyes gave Lyra Shen the answer. At that moment, Lyra Shen felt nothing but absurdity and irony. She broke free from Kaihan's grip and took a step back. Without wanting to look at him again, she turned and walked away, saying, Leave, I won't go back with you. Kaihan had always believed that as long as Lyra Shen knew his true feelings, she would surely return with him. Yet reality dealt him a heavy blow, striking straight at his heart, leaving him in unbearable pain. Lyra, I never once thought about divorcing you. What must I do to make you change your mind? Kaihan's voice, hoarse to the extreme, drifted into Lyra Shen's ears. She paused her steps. Kaihan, how I wished you would care about me in the past, but now I don't need it anymore, because I no longer cherish you. Chapter 19. Heart belongs to another. With that, Lyra Shen walked away without looking back, leaving only Kaihan standing there, devastated and heartbroken, unable to breathe. This time he came to the capital only after his leader had applied for a long time. And he could stay for only 3 days. He thought he could bring Lyra Shen back, but he didn't expect her to seem completely disheartened toward him. But he couldn't give up, nor did he want to. Kaihan clearly knew how much the old Lyra Shen had cared for him and couldn't believe she now seemed to not value him at all. He would go to beg for her forgiveness again, telling her that he cared about her. After a long while, Kaihan finally left Buju Alley. He returned to the hotel he had booked. After taking a shower, he took out the letter Lyra Shen had written to him again. Kaihan can still vividly recall the joy he felt the moment he received Lyra Shen's letter. It was like a long-awaited rain after a drought. At that time, he had been searching for Lyra Shen for a long while, yet there had been no trace of her. Her letter truly came as a timely rain, but when he eagerly opened the envelope and saw the words on it, it felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him from head to toe, leaving him chilled to the bone. It read, Kaihan, the divorce was a decision I made after careful consideration. Since you don't care about me, I'll let you have your way. Don't look for me anymore, and live a good life with Rena Wan. But Kaihan couldn't accept being divorced so abruptly and without explanation, so he followed the address on the letter to find her. Yet what he saw was Lyra Shen smiling at another man while treating him with cold indifference. Kaihan rubbed his temples, suppressing the bitterness in his heart, thinking of going to talk with Lyra Shen again tomorrow. Meanwhile, at Lyra Shen's home in Buju Alley, Lu Wentao had already bought the tickets and sent them to Lyra Shen, reminding her, the train leaves at 8 a.m. tomorrow. We can stay there for a few days, so you might need to bring a change of clothes. Lyra Shen nodded, okay. After the words were spoken, no one spoke for a moment. Lu Wentao noticed Lyra Shen's visibly low spirits and knew it was because of the man from earlier. Who was he, and what was his relationship with her? Why had she come to the capital in the first place? Lu Wentao was full of questions, wanting to ask but not wishing to scare Lyra Shen, because he had already realized the deepest thought in his heart. He liked Lyra Shen. In the past, he would have taken his time, but the moment that man appeared, he could affect her emotions. This gave Lu Wentao a sense of urgency. He didn't want to wait any longer. Lu Wentao suddenly reached out and grabbed Lyra Shen's hand, saying, "Lyra, I have something to tell you." But he was interrupted by Lyra Shen, who looked at him and smiled. "Don't rush to speak yet. Let me tell you a story first." Lu Wentao swallowed back the confession on the tip of his tongue and nodded. "All right." Lyra Shen began recounting everything that had happened between her and Kai Han, including her love at first sight, her compromises, and even how she had failed to win Kai Han's heart despite decades of life in her previous existence. She laid it all out as she spoke. It was as if Lyra Shen was reliving the days of her past life all over again. Her voice grew softer and even choked with emotion at times. "I didn't want to live that life from my dreams anymore, where I gave everything only to end up with nothing. So when I woke up again, I chose to divorce. I thought that without my interference, he would end up with the childhood sweetheart he had always liked. But instead, he came to the capital and told me that it was me he truly cared about." At this point, Lyra Shen laughed, but tears welled up in her eyes. "It's really so ironic and ridiculous." After hearing this, Lu Wentao felt nothing but heartache, pained that such a wonderful girl wasn't cherished. "Lyra, it's all in the past. You were brave to take this step, and things will get better from now on. I'll always be by your side." Chapter 20, the beginning of a new romance. He looked at Lyra Shen and spoke the words hidden deep in his heart with a gentle voice. Lyra Shen, her eyes blurred with tears, choked out, "Don't you mind, I've been married before." Lu Wentao smiled and asked, "Just tell me this, do you still care about your ex-husband?" Lyra Shen looked at Lu Wentao, catching the fleeting unease in his heart. A part of her heart instantly collapsed. Perhaps she shouldn't belittle herself. If Kai Han couldn't see her worth, someone else surely would. Lyra Shen smiled softly but shook her head firmly. "He has nothing to do with me anymore." Lu Wentao finally let out a sigh of relief and tightened his grip on Lyra Shen's hand. "Lyra, I really adore you and want to marry you. Will you give me a chance?" Lyra Shen didn't expect him to say this so suddenly. Her heart immediately started pounding like a rabbit was trapped inside her chest. She couldn't quite bring herself to meet his eyes and lowered her gaze. "We've only known each other for a short time. This is too fast." Back then, she and Kai Han had rushed into marriage too quickly. If she had known before the wedding that his heart already belonged to someone else, perhaps she wouldn't have married him. "So, she doesn't want to rush things now. I understand. I just wanted you to know my true feelings. As for marriage, we can take our time getting to know each other better. There's no hurry to hold a wedding until you feel ready." Lyra Shen was at a loss for words and remained silent for a while before finally speaking. "It's very late. You should go back now." Lu Wentao knew she needed time to digest what he had said, so he nodded. "All right. I'll come get you tomorrow morning. Get some rest early." With that, he left Lyra Shen's home. After Lu Wentao left, Lyra Shen felt slightly dazed. Is she already getting into a relationship with someone else so soon? In the past, she wouldn't have dared to think about it, but now it seems perfectly natural. She feels a bit nervous, but more than that, she's excited. The next day, upon hearing the knock, Lyra Shen immediately slung a cloth bag over her shoulder and hurried to the door to open it. Meeting Lu Wentao's gentle, smiling gaze, she couldn't help but smile back. "Let's go, I'm all packed." Lu Wentao reached out to take the cloth bag from her back, holding it in his hand. "Let's go." Lyra Shen paused for a moment, then followed him downstairs with a smile. The two weren't planning to drive to the station, so they had no choice but to take a taxi. Just as they stepped out of the alley to hail a cab by the street, Lyra Shen saw Kai Han walking straight toward them. Before she could react, she was abruptly pulled away from the road. "Lyra, are you running away again? Just to avoid me?" Lyra Shen came to her senses, withdrew her hand, and said indifferently, "You're overthinking it." Before she could finish, Lu Wentao stepped forward, pulled her behind him, and began to assert his dominance. "Lyra is going to Tianjin with me for a few days. Comrade, don't waste our time." Kai Han's gaze shifted from Lyra Shen to Lu Wentao. His eyes sharp and his imposing presence fully revealed. "Who are you?" Lu Wentao didn't back down at all. "My name is Lu Wentao, and I'm currently in a relationship with Lyra." As soon as the words were spoken, Kai Han's face turned pale, and he looked past the man's shoulder in disbelief at the person behind him. "Lyra, this can't be true. You clearly cared so much about me. How could you suddenly?" But before he could finish, Lu Wentao thought of the hidden pain in Lyra Shen's eyes when she told him that story yesterday. A flash of anger flickered in his eyes. You know she cares about you, but have you ever considered how you've acted? Kaihan felt a tightness in his chest, yet he refused to show weakness in front of another man. This is between me and Lyra. As an outsider, you'd do better not to interfere. Lu Wentao choked on his words. At this moment, Lyra Shen stepped forward. Kaihan, why must you do this? Go back, we're about to leave. With that, she walked to the roadside to hail another taxi. Seeing how coldly Lyra Shen treated him, Kaihan felt as if his heart had plunged into an abyss. Yet, he still couldn't bring himself to give up. He walked over to Lyra Shen's side and shamelessly asked, I can stay in the capital for 2 more days. Can I go to Jin City with you? Chapter 21. The last struggle of an old love. Lyra Shen stared at Kaihan in shock. Since when had he become so shameless? Yet seeing him like this, Lyra Shen couldn't help but feel a pang in her heart. If in her past life, Kaihan had treated her like this, she would have been truly happy and joyful, but she was neglected for a lifetime, and now any attempt at making amends from him is already too late. There's no need to do anything anymore. Kaihan, Lyra Shen was about to refuse when Kaihan interrupted. Just these 2 days, if I still can't change your mind, I'll return to Northern Sharangssi and won't bother you again. Lyra Shen hesitated, instinctively glancing at Lu Wentao. Lu Wentao, however, gave her a reassuring smile. Lyra, it's your decision. Whatever it is, I won't mind. In the end, Lyra Shen agreed to let Kaihan accompany them. She didn't want to have any further entanglement with him anymore. Perhaps after this, the 2 of them could just call it even. That would be for the best. Kaihan let out a sigh of relief. But the ache in his chest grew even stronger. He knew Lyra Shen had agreed because of his words. I won't bother you anymore in the future. But Lyra, can't you really give me one more chance? At noon, the 3 arrived in Jinsha. Lu Wentao took Lyra Shen's luggage and asked her, Are you hungry? How about we grab something to eat first, then rest at the hotel? Sure, whatever you say. Lyra Shen nodded and followed Lu Wentao as they got off the car. As for Kaihan's opinion, no one paid any attention. He remained silent throughout, just quietly following behind Lyra Shen. The 3 of them arrived at an old established restaurant, Hongqi Restaurant. As soon as they sat down, Lu Wentao effortlessly started ordering dishes. He ordered 3 dishes in one breath. Explosive lamb with scallions, 8 treasure tofu. He then added some snacks and pastries, finishing with a final request. Oh, and no durian in the pastries, please. Hearing the word durian, Kaihan beside him froze. Had she even told him about her durian allergy? Kaihan felt nothing but bitterness in his heart. Unexpectedly, at this moment, he heard Lyra Shen looking at Lu Wentao with surprise. You don't eat durian either. Lu Wentao shook his head. We've known each other for quite some time now, and I've noticed you never touch durian. Are you allergic to it? Lyra Shen suddenly felt a lump in her throat, her eyes slightly reddening. Someone who truly cares about you will notice your every move, just like Lu Wentao did with her. Even without her saying a word, he knew she was allergic to durian. At this moment, Kaihan felt as if a sharp sword had pierced his heart, the pain excruciating and bloody. He looked at Lyra Shen's slightly reddened eyes, his throat seemingly sealed with oilcloth, unable to utter a single word. It was at this moment that he truly understood why Lyra Shen had given up on him. He had been married to her for 3 years, yet he never knew she was allergic to durian, while Lu Wentao, who had only known her for a month, was aware of it. Kaihan's heart ached so much he wished he could die. He had always thought that as long as he explained himself and treated Lyra Shen well from now on, he could make her change her mind and return to him. He even shamelessly followed her to Jinsha. Now, he clearly realized that Lyra Shen would never forgive him. Especially when there was someone by her side who truly cared about her. The meal felt like an eternity for Kaihan. After dinner, the 3 of them went to the hotel and rested in their respective rooms. After Lu Wentao left, Kaihan called out to Lyra Shen. He looked at the expressionless Lyra Shen before him and spoke with bitterness in his eyes. Lyra, do you think I'm ridiculous? Lyra Shen remained silent. I said I cared about you, yet I never acted like it, in the past. I even neglected you for Reborn I. You expressed your dissatisfaction many times, but I always thought you were making a big deal out of nothing, that it didn't matter. Lyra, You think my lack of explanation means I don't care about you, but in my heart, it's because I know you are my wife. The one who will be with me for a lifetime. So I always felt there was time, that explanations could wait, but I never considered that you, too, could feel hurt and despair, that you might leave me. Lyra, I'm sorry. Chapter 22, The Final Farewell. At the end, Kai-Han choked up with emotion. His face was full of defeat, as if he had lost something of utmost importance to him. After listening to him, Lyra Shen no longer cared about all that had happened between them in the past, nor did she want to dwell on it anymore, because she was ready to move forward. A brighter future lies ahead of her. Lyra Shen took a deep breath and said to Kai-Han, "The decisions of the past were my own, and I will bear any consequences myself. But now, I no longer wish to live the way I did before, so I've moved on. Don't dwell on it too much, there's still a long road ahead, and things will get better." Hearing Lyra Shen's words that sounded almost like self-comfort, Kai-Han felt no joy. Instead, a deeper ache settled in his heart. He clearly understood that Lyra Shen said those words because she had truly moved on from him. Just as he realized his own feelings, she no longer loved him. Kai-Han felt as if his heart was about to shatter from the pain. "Lyra, I'm going back to Northern Sharangssi. Take care of yourself here alone." Lyra Shen nodded. "I will. You should live well too after you go back. Best wishes to you and Rina Rwan." Seeing that she still wanted to pair him with Rina Rwan, Kai-Han smiled bitterly. "I've already made it clear to her. I won't be with her." Lyra Shen nodded indifferently. His matters with Rina Rwan were no longer her concern. Whoever he might marry in the future was not something she needed to worry about. In the hotel room, I had a comfortable sleep. It wasn't until there was a knock at the door that Lyra Shen woke up. With sleepy eyes, she opened them and the door, only to see the energetic Lu Wentao standing at the entrance. "Awake yet? Let's grab something to eat. Then I'll take you to the beach." Lyra Shen nodded. "Okay, wait for me a moment." 10 minutes later, Lyra Shen and Wen Daolu went out but didn't see Kai-Han. Wen Daolu didn't ask, and Lyra Shen didn't speak up either. Both silently understood that Kai-Han had already left. This also shows that he gave up on winning Lyra Shen back. This made Lu Wentao heave a huge sigh of relief. After a simple meal together, they went to the beach. By this time, the beach was quite crowded, and Lu Wentao found a spot with a particularly beautiful view, taking advantage of the last glimmer of the setting sun. He said to Lyra Shen, "Lyra, let me take a photo of you." Lyra Shen hesitated a little, as she rarely took photos. Even indoor ones were few and far between, let alone outdoor shots like this. "Don't worry, you can trust my skills. Plus, you're beautiful. You'll definitely look great in photos." Under Lu Wentao's various persuasions, Lyra Shen finally nodded in agreement. At first, she was a bit reserved and didn't know how to pose. Lu Wentao wasn't in a hurry either, patiently teaching her step by step. Then Lyra Shen let go and began to joyfully jump and run on the beach. Lu Wentao held the camera, continuously capturing her every smile and frown. Half an hour later, Lyra Shen felt a bit tired and casually sat down on the beach. She flipped through the camera with Lu Wentao, noticing that all the photos in the camera were of her alone, with none of Lu Wentao. Lyra Shen felt a bit embarrassed. "You only took photos of me, and didn't take any of yourself." "It's okay, I enjoy taking pictures of you." Lu Wentao looked at her, his voice so tender it could drip with sweetness. Lyra Shen burst into laughter, utterly delighted. The two played on the beach for a long time, and on the way back, Lu Wentao suddenly said, "Lyra, I want to hold your hand, is that okay?" Lyra Shen was taken aback, her face slightly reddening, and her voice was barely audible. "Okay." Although Lu Wentao didn't hear her reply, he understood when he saw the blush on her face. He directly reached out and gently took the hand of Lyra Shen, who was walking beside him. At this moment, Lu Wentao felt like the happiest man in the world. Chapter 23, Love in Dreamwaves. After spending a few days playing in Jin City, Lyra Shen and Lu Wentao returned to the capital. Then Lyra Shen started going to Lu Wentao's courtyard house every day to operate that computer. At first, Lu Wentao taught her hands-on, but when he became busy, Lyra Shen began figuring things out on her own. Lyra Shen learned quickly, becoming familiar with the entire computer operation process in less than half a month. She then started learning to type and spent each day looking at the various styles of photos Lu Wentao had taken, thinking of words that could match the images. The two were inseparable and got along very happily. That day, Lyra Shin was typing diligently on the computer keyboard, her head lowered in concentration. Suddenly, a somewhat familiar voice called out to her, "Sister Lyra." Lyra Shin paused her movements and turned her head to see a girl walking in from behind the counter. It was Lu Wenling. "Hello." Lyra Shin stood up and nodded in greeting. Lu Wenling stepped forward, linking arms with her, and said cheerfully, "Sister Lyra, you're going to be my sister-in-law soon, no need to be so formal. Just call me Wenling." Lyra Shin blushed slightly upon hearing Lu Wenling's words and quickly changed the subject. "Are you here to see your brother?" "No, actually. I'm here on behalf of my mom to find you." Lu Wenling suddenly dropped the smile from her face. Lyra Shin was taken aback. Lu Wentao had already told her about his family background. His father was among the first wave of entrepreneurs to venture into business, and now runs a large farm. His mother has also been through thick and thin with his father, so, in reality, Lu Wentao is a second-generation wealthy businessman who has hardly experienced hardship since childhood. Originally, his father wanted him to take over the family farm, but Lu Wentao wasn't interested. After graduating from university, he pursued photography instead. He rarely returns home throughout the year and shows no interest in dating or marriage, which has led to some dissatisfaction from his parents. Now that Mother Lu knows about my relationship with Lu Wentao, she specifically sent Lu Wenling over to. Thinking this, Lyra Shin felt somewhat uneasy, but she had to stay composed. Since she had decided to be with Lu Wentao, his parents were people she would inevitably have to face. Lyra Shin spoke up. "Did Aunt Lu ask you to come for something in particular?" Lu Wenling looked at the composed and poised Lyra Shin before her and suddenly burst into laughter. "I told you Sister Lyra wouldn't be scared. Don't worry, my parents are overjoyed that my brother is finally dating someone. They wouldn't dream of making things difficult for you. Plus, I've already put in a good word for you." Lu Wenling instantly dropped her act, reverting to her usual cheerful self. Lyra Shin let out a barely audible sigh of relief, and a smile gradually spread across her face. Here, the future sisters-in-law were chatting happily. Meanwhile, in northern Shaanxi, the conversation between Kai Han and Rina Ruan wasn't as relaxed. Since returning from the capital, Kai Han had become unusually quiet. Spending every day in his office as if trying to numb himself with work, he also avoided staying too long in the family quarters, because every corner of that house was filled with memories of Lyra Shin. The memories were not pleasant, and Kai Han would sometimes sit down to reflect. In the past 3 years, had he ever cared for Lyra Shin even once? Yet no matter how hard he tried to recall, all he could remember was his indifference and coldness toward her. Kai Han's heart ached as if cut by a knife, filled with bitterness. That day, as he returned from the office to the residential compound, he unexpectedly ran into Rina Ruan, who had been waiting at the entrance for quite some time. Frowning, he asked, "What are you doing here?" Rina Ruan, however, had reddened eyes. "Why have you been avoiding me?" Kai Han rubbed his temples, took out his keys, and opened the door. "Come in, we'll talk inside." Lyra Shin's sudden departure had already sparked endless gossip in the residential compound, and now he didn't want to become the subject of their post-dinner chatter alongside Rina Ruan. Chapter 24, The Heartbreaking Truth. After entering the house, Rina Ruan tried to approach Kai Han, even attempting to hold his hand. Kai Han took a step back, avoiding her touch. Rina Ruan's eyes grew even redder. "Brother Kai, why are you rejecting me? You went to find Sister Lyra, and she didn't come back with you, so between us," Kai Han interrupted her. "Rina, it's my fault. I didn't know my boundaries before. Not only hurting Lyra but also giving you false hope. I'm sorry." "What do you mean by that?" "Brother Kai, didn't you like me since we were kids? Now I care about you, and there's nothing standing between us anymore." Kai Han shook his head and said firmly, "Rina, I don't want to lie to you. I helped you before because of our childhood bond, but I never once thought of having anything with you. Even though Lyra has left now, you'll always just be the girl next door to me." Tears instantly streamed down Rina Ruan's face as she stared at Kai Han in disbelief. In the past, he would feel heartache even if she merely furrowed her brows, let alone shed tears. Yet now, faced with her tears, he remained utterly unmoved. "Are you in love with Sister Lyra?" In an instant, Kai Han's mind flashed to Lyra Shin's happy and carefree smile in the capital, and his heart ached sharply, but facing Rina Ruan, He didn't want to lie to her, nor did he want to deceive himself any longer. Kaihan nodded. Yes. Rina Ruan's face turned pale. Then what am I to you? If you never thought about having a future with me, why were you so good to me? Kaihan fell silent before finally speaking after a long pause. Rina, do you really like me, or do you just like the way I treat you? Rina Ruan froze, her expression blank. Rina, we grew up together. When we were young, you saw me as an older brother and chose to marry someone else. Later, you divorced because he treated you poorly. Now, you only feel this way because I've been good to you. Even if it were someone else, you'd feel the same. Kaihan continued speaking. Rina Ruan looked even more bewildered, not even realizing when she had returned to her own home. Kaihan lay alone on the bed, his heart filled with endless sorrow. He now clearly understood who truly mattered to him, even though she had already left his side, but he also didn't want to be with another woman, get married, or even have children while still having feelings for someone else in his heart. He had already made this mistake once and hurt the woman he cared about. He wouldn't make the same mistake again. Half a year later, the capital, the sound of firecrackers popped all around. Lyra Shen stood at the entrance of the courtyard house, gazing at the plaque hanging above the gate, which shimmered under the sunlight with two characters, Meng Dao. She turned to Lu Wentao beside her and asked, "Are you really going to name your photography journal this?" Lu Wentao held her hand, his tone carrying a hint of dissatisfaction. "What's yours or mine? Meng Dao Photography Magazine is clearly the result of our joint efforts, so naming it after both of us is more than appropriate." Lyra Shen smiled faintly and didn't ask any further. A few months ago, after she had learned to type, Lu Wentao asked her, "If you had to choose right now, Lyra, where would you most like to go?" Lyra Shen thought for a moment and immediately replied, "The grasslands." "All right, then our first stop will be the grasslands." True to their word, a few days later, the two of them set off on the road to the Tibetan grasslands. Lyra Shen and Lu Wentao stayed in Tibet for a full month. During that time, they saw many different landscapes and heard numerous legends and stories about Tibet. After returning to the capital, the two went their separate ways and got busy. Lu Wentao was responsible for developing photos and contacting print media and magazine editors, while Lyra Shen documented everything she had seen and heard in Tibet. 3 months later, the two collaborated to release the first issue of the Dream Waves Photography magazine. When it hit the market, it resonated with many people, successfully making its mark. Chapter 25. The engagement is set. Lu Wentao watched Lyra Shen laughing freely in the sunlight, his heart softening. He couldn't help but pull Lyra aside to a quiet corner and spoke the words he had been thinking about for a long time. "Lyra, we've been together for over half a year now. Do you still not have confidence in me?" Lyra Shen seemed a bit confused. "What?" Lu Wentao took out a gold ring from his pocket and held it out in front of Lyra Shen. "Lyra, I want to marry you. Will you?" Lyra Shen was taken aback, recalling how since she met Lu Wentao, he had always protected her, treated her well, and spared her from worries. The favoritism she had never experienced before seemed to come naturally from him. Suddenly, Lyra Shen remembered that time they were playing in Jinsha. One night when it was thundering and raining, Lyra Shen had already decided to tough it out on her own, but Lu Wentao still came knocking on her door. "Lyra, I see it's thundering and pouring outside. Are you scared? Do you want me to come over and keep you company?" At that moment, all the grievances in Lyra Shen's heart seemed to burst out at once. She cried hysterically in front of Lu Wentao. It was also from that day on that she thought there would never be anyone who treated her better than Lu Wentao. Afterwards, both were busy with their careers, so they just continued being together. Now is the time to consider it. Lyra Shen thought of her grandfather. He hadn't met Lu Wentao yet. She could make time to visit him. She looked at Lu Wentao and said, "How about we find some time for me to take you to meet my grandfather?" Lu Wentao understood immediately, his heart blooming with joy. "Good, time is everywhere. We can go back right away, and then we can bring Grandpa to the capital." As he spoke, he turned to leave but was stopped by Lyra Shen. "Hey, where are you going?" Lu Wentao said, "I'm going to buy train tickets back to northern Shaanxi." Lyra Shen smiled wryly. "There's no need to be in such a hurry. Let's finish what we have at hand first." A few days later, when Lyra Shen and Lu Wentao were preparing to return to northern Shaanxi, they were held up by another matter. It was Lu's parents who wanted to meet Lyra Shen. The Lu residence, Lyra Shen followed Lu Wentao into the courtyard house, which was much larger than his own. Everywhere exuded an antique charm, yet was filled with warmth. Lyra Shen thought Mrs. Lu must be a very virtuous woman. As soon as she stepped into the living room, she saw a kindly middle-aged woman approaching. This must be Lyra. What a lovely girl. Please come in. With that, she took Lyra Shen's hand and led her to sit on the sofa. Lyra Shen, who had been quite nervous, instantly felt her tension melt away upon meeting Lu's mother. Auntie, hello, my name is Lyra Shen. I've brought some health supplements. I hope you and Uncle won't mind them. As he spoke, he looked at Lu Wentao. The gift was in his hand. At this moment, Lu Wenling came out and teased with a smile, Sister Lyra. My parents are already so happy that you're here, there's no need to bring anything. Saying this, she also sat on the other side of Lyra Shen, whispering to her. Lyra Shen also liked Lu Wenling very much and greeted her with a smile. Mrs. Lu grew fonder of Lyra Shen the more she looked at her. Lyra, I really like you. I've been telling Wentao for ages to find someone and get married, but he just wouldn't listen to me. Now that he's finally met you and is thinking about marriage. When do you two plan to get married? Lyra Shen knew Mrs. Lu would ask. Aside from needing to return to northern Shaanxi to see her grandfather first, there was also another matter. She had been married before, and she wasn't sure if Lu Wentao had mentioned it to his family. Auntie, Wentao and I are planning to go back to northern Shaanxi first, and there are some things I'd like to talk to you about. Lyra Shen paused, about to speak, but was interrupted by Mrs. Lu. Child, Wentao has already told us about your situation. We don't mind at all, so don't take it to heart, understand? As for going back to northern Shaanxi, I know you still have a grandfather there. Would you like us to accompany you? Lu's mother looked at Lyra Shen with earnest eyes. Lyra Shen was truly touched, feeling fortunate to have met Lu Wentao and his family. No need, Wentao and I can go back by ourselves. Thank you, Auntie. As they were talking, Lu's father returned during dinner. Lu Wentao looks very much like him, but his father is rather dull and doesn't say much. Upon meeting Lyra Shen, he only said, "Not bad, let me know in advance when you plan to get married." Chapter 26, A Warm Family Dinner. Lyra Shen completely relaxed and exchanged a smile with Lu Wentao. After leaving the Lu residence, she was still carrying several bags, saying they were for her grandfather. Lyra Shen couldn't refuse their kindness and accepted them. Wentao, your family is so nice. Lu Wentao held Lyra Shen's hand and said with a smile, they'll be your family too in the future. They're all protective and won't let you suffer the slightest grievance. So Lyra, marry me without any worries. Okay. Lyra Shen's eyes were red as she nodded. At this moment, she felt her heart had finally found its harbor. 5 days later, at the old house in Fengyan village, when Lyra Shen arrived at the courtyard gate with Lu Wentao, carrying large and small bags, she saw her grandfather standing at the doorway as usual, waiting for her. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes as she stepped forward to grasp the old man's hand. "Grandpa, I've come back to see you." The old man nodded, carefully examining his granddaughter whom he hadn't seen in over half a year. Her face was rosy, beaming with joy, and she even seemed to have gained a little weight. It seemed she was truly doing well in the capital, which put his mind at ease. Then his gaze shifted and settled on Lu Wentao standing beside her. Lu Wentao suddenly felt a bit nervous. Grandpa, my name is Lu Wentao. It's a pleasure to meet you." The old man didn't speak, just stared at him intently. Lu Wentao's appearance was on par with Kai Han's, but with a touch more gentleness. The old man felt his granddaughter tugging at his sleeve, and his expression softened. "Go inside." Lu Wentao let out a sigh of relief, stepped forward, and supported the old man's other arm. "Grandfather, let me help you." The 3 generations, grandfather and grandchildren, entered the house supporting each other. To strengthen his grandfather's favor toward him, Lu Wentao made every effort to leave a good impression in front of him, even cooking various dishes to nourish Grandpa. The elderly man watched Lu Wentao bustling in the kitchen, not letting his granddaughter lift a finger, and patted Lyra Shen's hand beside him. "I can see that Wentao truly holds you dear in his heart. I feel at ease in trusting you to him." Lyra Shen nodded. Then, "Grandpa, come to the capital with us." "All right." The old man remained silent. Lyra Shen knew he couldn't bear to leave the place where he had lived his entire life, so she added, "Just go and stay for a while. When you want to come back, we'll bring you back." Okay. In the end, The old man couldn't resist Lyra Shen's persuasion and nodded in agreement. After lunch, after helping her grandfather to bed, Lyra Shen went to Lu Wentao's side. Let's go, I'll show you around. Alright, the two walked side by side through the village, still encountering those familiar neighbors. They all looked at the unfamiliar man beside Lyra Shen, exchanging puzzled glances. Unable to resist, they all asked Lyra Shen, Lyra, who is this person next to you? Where's your political commissar Han? Yeah, why hasn't he come to visit the old man for so long recently? I heard you went to the capital. Could this person next to you also be from the capital? Several people surrounded Lyra Shen and Lu Wentao, chattering and gossiping, because after she left, Kai-Han only came back to visit the old man and didn't stay long, so the villagers didn't know about her divorce. Lyra Shen frowned and was about to speak. Lu Wentao, standing beside her, held her hand and calmly faced the people around them. Hello everyone, I'm Lu Wentao, Lyra's fiancé. We came back this time to take Grandpa to the capital. We're getting married soon. As the words fell, the crowd erupted in an uproar. Getting married? That girl Lyra is getting married again. Lyra, when did you divorce Commissar Han? We had no idea. This man is from out of town. Are you really going to marry into the capital? Did you divorce Commissar Han because you took a fancy to this man? The words grew increasingly harsh, and a flicker of anger crossed Lyra Shen's face, just as she was about to retort. Kai-Han's voice came from behind her. Lyra and I divorced. It wasn't her fault, it was mine. Chapter 27 Final Farewell. As the words fell, everyone around turned their gaze to Kai-Han. Kai-Han slowly walked to Lyra Shen's side, facing the surrounding crowd. The divorce has nothing to do with Lyra, and if she finds someone who truly treats her well, I will sincerely wish her happiness. Don't ever let me hear such remarks again. Kai-Han's voice gradually turned icy, his dark eyes emitting an intimidating light. This made the surrounding people dare not say anything more, and they all dispersed to go home. In an instant, only the three of them remained on the road. Kai-Han knew he should leave now, but seeing Lyra Shen, he couldn't bring himself to walk away. He could only try to keep the conversation going. When did you guys get back? Lyra Shen replied, just arrived today. Kai-Han nodded, noticing Lyra Shen's expression that seemed unwilling to engage further with him, and his heart ached. Thinking of what Lu Wentao had just said, he spoke again. Lyra, have you decided to marry him? Kai-Han carried a trace of undeniable sorrow in his voice, his gaze intense as he looked at Lyra Shen. Lyra Shen nodded. We have other matters to attend to, so we'll be leaving now. Seeing Lyra Shen turn to leave, Kai-Han suddenly panicked and blurted out, I was just going to visit my grandfather today. Let's go together. With that, he caught up to Lyra Shen and walked side by side with her on the village path. Lyra Shen didn't say anything, but when she met Lu Wentao's speechless gaze, she couldn't help but smile. She reached out to hook her finger with Lu Wentao's, as if to comfort him. Lu Wentao instantly beamed with joy. Kai-Han, whose attention was entirely on Lyra Shen, naturally noticed the interaction between the two beside them. Seeing the smile on Lyra Shen's face, Kai-Han felt a stabbing pain in his heart. He has been married to Lyra Shen for 3 years, yet he had never seen her shine so brightly before. In his memory, she always seemed cautious, eager to please, and quietly enduring. Perhaps it was precisely this endurance of hers that made him unconsciously overlook her feelings. But seeing Lu Wentao truly understanding her thoughts and sharing her concerns, Kai-Han felt for the first time that he was unworthy of speaking of love, even less worthy of speaking of love to Lyra Shen. Kai-Han's eyes filled with bitterness as his steps gradually slowed, watching the two ahead chatting and laughing. It suddenly occurred to him, had Lyra Shen once watched him and Rena won like this in the past? For a moment, Kai-Han's heart felt as if pierced by 10,000 arrows. The pain so intense it was suffocating. Every suffering Lyra Shen had endured, he would now experience in equal measure. Perhaps this was the price he had to pay for losing Lyra Shen. They arrived at the old mansion. Grandpa is already awake. Kai-Han steps forward. Old man, I came to see you. The old man nods. Let's go inside and talk privately. Kai-Han and the old man enter the room, discussing some matters related to the military district. Finally, the conversation turns to Lyra Shen. The old man looked at Kai-Han and said, Xiaohan, you don't need to come anymore. Lyra told me she wants to take me to the capital, and I agreed. Kaihan froze for a moment, then forced a smile. If you leave, she'll have even less reason to come back in the future. The old man watched as the tall man before him suddenly seemed to slump, and sighed. Xiaohan, what happened between you and Lyra is in the past. She's already moved on, so you shouldn't cling to it either. Find someone and live a good life. Kaihan gave a bitter smile, meeting the old man's concerned gaze. He finally nodded. When leaving the old house, Kaihan looked at Lyra Shen, who was smiling and chatting with Lu Wentao not far away, but he didn't greet her. Kaihan took one last deep look at Lyra Shen before stepping out of the courtyard. He knew this might be the last time he would see Lyra Shen. Kaihan closed his eyes, forcefully suppressing the sting in them. From that moment on, he completely lost Lyra Shen, the woman who had once loved him most.